This is a production of the Gold Arrow Podcast Network. Hello, and welcome to the Gold Arrow Camp Podcast, a podcast for friends of Gold Arrow Camp. Throughout the year, we join you to bring your days some of what makes Gold Arrow special. Our goal is to help you have fun, make friends, and grow throughout the year, not just when you're at GAC. Since we can't get together in real life, we gather here, around the virtual campfire. We have some of your favorite parts of morning assembly. We also have interviews with experienced campers and some of your favorite counselors. We think it's a lot of fun, and we're glad you've joined us. This is episode 42, where we're joined by a young lady who was a camper, then a JC, and now she's a GC. It's Trips. Today, we're joined by Trips. Trips spent a lot of years at camp, and she comes from a real camp family, so to speak. Her parents, Opie and Noodles, both worked at camp as well, and her older sister. She's currently a student. She's studying to become a teacher, which is a really complimentary role to working at camp. I used to teach, and I know I became a much better teacher after I started working at camp because camp taught me so many valuable tools for working with young people that college simply didn't teach me. I'm personally thrilled that someone as awesome as Trips is going into teaching, and I hope you enjoy our chat. Here she is. It's Trips. Oh, welcome to the podcast, Trips. What's up, Trips?
Hello. I'm so excited to be on the podcast.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast. Okay, so you've been around for a long time, but people who listen to the pod might not know you. So let's start with kind of who you are, what your relationship to camp is, and what you did at camp this summer.
Okay, wow. I have been to camp basically all my life. Camp is kind of like a family occasion. My parents they were camp counselors. My dad was a backpacking instructor. My mom was a group counselor like I was this past summer. And they basically introduced me to camp the first 3 months I was born. I was there, I was hanging out, and I've just grown up around camp. And I probably talk the most about camp. Like anything else in the world, I always like somehow bring it back to camp. And it's so funny because my friends, like literally, it's like they know, it's like they were campers there just because they know so much about it.
Sure. So when it comes to camp, you talked about it being very much a family affair. Do you think, what is it that makes camp feel like a family affair? Obviously, your family has a long experience, but a lot of people tell us that camp is like their family away from home. What do you think it is that makes camp like that?
Well, camp is just it just creates such an environment. Everyone is so welcoming and they truly care. Everyone at camp truly cares about you. And you feel that just the minute you step off the bus when everyone's screaming and they're so excited. They couldn't be more excited that you arrived to camp. And just going through the activities and like, even as a counselor, I'm sometimes nervous to like maybe go up the high ropes course.
Sure.
But my cabin, no matter if I'm a camper or counselor, everyone's there to support each other. And even if it's just like going up the rock wall or like making it halfway, it's just such a big deal. And it's just a safe zone where you can be yourself and you truly don't need to worry about like anyone judging you or anyone thinking like differently about you, because we're all there to support you and be successful. And like everyone at camp is just so truly happy when they're there.
That's awesome. What do you think the biggest change is? Because I know a lot of campers say, oh, I can't wait to come back as a counselor. And obviously you were a camper and then a junior counselor and now you've been a group counselor. Like, did it live up to your expectations? How does it relate to what you thought it would be?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. So I think like growing up, I always like being that camper, I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want to be a counselor. Like, can I just be a counselor? Yeah, like I was so eager and so excited to be a counselor. And being in that position, being a counselor, it's so cool to see such a different side of camp. Mm-hmm. Because I literally was a camper for 13 years, something like that. And still going, like, it was a lot.
Right.
And then going as a new, like, thinking like, oh, camp is so familiar. and going from being like a camper to counselor, it definitely was a transition for sure. Definitely a lot more responsibility, but it was just so cool to be able to bring like my passion for camp and really get to spend time and get to know my campers and really get to share like my experiences with them. And it was just so fun, like telling them these little stories about like sitting in the middle of Huntington Lake, singing the llama song 10 times as loud as we can. And just, it's so cool just to bring all my traditions and everything that I remember from camp to my campers. And I think it's just like so rewarding because like camp is definitely one of my communities.
Sure.
And just give back to one of my big communities. And it's just something that like definitely has impacted my life forever. And like basically camp, I want to be a teacher, and basically camp has like helped me with that and realize like, wow, I'm really passionate about hanging out with kids and really getting to teach them basically. And like, you're always a teacher when you're around kids.
Sure. I feel like I taught for almost a decade before I came to work at camp, and I was so much better in the classroom after I came to camp than I was beforehand.
Yeah.
So you were talking about like kind of passing on some of your great memories as a camper to your campers. So I guess the natural question for me is, what's your all-time favorite camp memory?
There's so many. Oh my goodness. I think one of my like all-time favorite memories is going backpacking with my cabins. Cause like, yeah, maybe like you're not so into hiking, or maybe you're just like carrying that backpack can be really hard and challenging. But once you get there, it's like, wow, look what I just accomplished. And I think I was in cabin 3. We literally like made up like a backpacking song. And it, like, I still kind of remember, like I tried to sing it to my campers. Like it was a little rough, but it was just so fun. And like, I just remember like being around the campfire, just really talking, hanging out, making s'more-dillas, like the view. We were at Twin Lake. Like I remember so much about that trip. And it's awesome because also like the girls who were in my cabin, half of them were counselors with me this year.
That's awesome.
And so it's just like, it's literally a circle game. It's kind of crazy.
Whoa. It's like that song. It's like it all relates.
Whoa. Mind blown.
My brain explodes. So you were talking about how both you and your mom were group counselors. I guess for people who maybe haven't been to camp, who only know us because their kids come to camp or whatever, could you talk a little bit about what a group counselor does and what your job looked like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, for sure. So a group counselor is a counselor who lives in the cabin with 10 girls, with about 8 to 10, depending on like the amount. And our job is to go with the cabin everywhere. So, for example, we'd go to breakfast with them, and then we'd get to go to morning assembly with them, and then go do the morning activity. So it could be like water, it could be knee-ski waking, or it could be like 2 activities. And then we have rest hour, lunch, dinner, and then, or I miss an activity. So basically we go to activities with the cabin, as well as go to meals and campfire and everything in between. And it's just super fun because as a group counselor, you really get to know the girls and you get to challenge them because you know, like during campfires and stuff, you really just like get to know maybe their strengths, what they're worried about, their goals. And it's really fun because I get to like use that like as an encouragement, like, hey, like, look at that, you just made your goal, like, how does it make you feel? And it's just an awesome experience. And the girls really get to know me as well as I get to know them on just a different level.
That's an awesome description of being a GC. You talked about goal setting. We talk a lot about goal setting with campers, especially like kind of laying out what they want to do. In your experience, like what percentage of girls in your cabins do you think reached their goals this summer?
Oh, 100%.
Really?
Because even if like throughout the 2 weeks, I really like to like check in with them on their goals.
Sure.
And sometimes we make adjustments too. Like maybe they're a first time camper and they're like, wow, like I thought I was so eager about it. And that's okay. They like tried it out and like, even just like a little, even just like it's a little step. I think they really do reach their goals in the end because they really work towards it and really focus on it. And it's really cool just to have these conversations about how they reach their goals. And I think throughout camp, their goals are changing. Like when they go, like, right, we do knee ski wake and then we go to shaver and they're like, wow, now that I don't want to just try kneeboarding, I want to get my gold in it.
Okay. So you mentioned that you want to go into education.
Yes.
And we're doing this as you sit. I think you have to go to class or an orientation here fairly soon. I would note, the people at home can't see the video. You're wearing a Gold Arrow Camp sweatshirt, and when you move your left hand, I can definitely see a friendship bracelet still on it. So, how do you take camp and kind of that camp attitude and the things we talk about at camp? How do you apply those to your life the rest of the year?
Oh yeah. So I think one of the big things I really take away is Sunshine always says we make real relationships here.
Sure.
And that is something I really focus on and really value. And so at school, wherever I am, I really take the time and connect with like my fellow classmates, or if I'm in my sorority sisters, or different things like that. And camp has just given me the confidence to go up to someone and be like, "Hi, I'm Amanda. What's your name?"
Oh no.
Ah!
Now they'll all know what your real name is, Trips. Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, it really gives me the confidence to go and introduce myself, as well as like Westy. I really do use it. It's really cool. Like when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, someone else comes up like, "Oh, this is Baba. Like we're both liberal studies majors." Like, oh my God. And like, I really use it outside, like in the real world all the time.
Do you think about it, or is it just something that when you've spent enough time at camp, it just becomes ingrained in how you operate?
Yeah, it's definitely engraved in my brain. It's something that comes really natural.
Sure.
Because everyone wants to feel welcomed. And I think that's like a really good way of just like including others. Is really like, it's something super simple, just like introducing someone to someone else. Because it also makes them feel like welcomed and wanted and like important in a way.
For sure. So my last question kind of here before we head to the speed round, I'm trying to figure out, you came to camp for a long time as a camper. We have a lot of long-time campers. Obviously, you're still in love with camp. What advice would you have for campers who have been coming for a long time and they think kind of maybe, listen, I did 5 years, I did 6 years, it's enough, I'm going to try something else?
Wow, that's a good question. The reason I keep coming back to camp year after year is really just the connections and the community and the atmosphere of camp. And maybe you're not into kneeboarding anymore or wakeboarding or all the activity that you've done maybe 18 times. Like, who knows?
Sure.
So it's really just, I think it's really about the connections. And remember, yeah, the activities are fun and it's an awesome thing. It's an awesome thing that camp has. And we're so lucky. Like, a lot of my friends have never wakeboarded or been kayaking before. And like, it's so awesome that I've got to be able to do that. But the reason why camp is just such an amazing place is really the community and like the safe space and the like how truly happy everyone is at camp. And so thinking about coming back to camp or not, really just like remember, it's not always about the activities, but who you surround yourself with. And I feel like just the connections I've made with people really, really, really have like changed my life at camp. I've changed my life in general. And just, remember, like, sometimes it's not always about the activities, but about the community.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I think we often see campers who can kind of enunciate that. They can say, listen, I'm coming back to camp for my camp friends. This is, all of the rest of this is just stuff we do while we hang out. But I think it's hard in kind of the modern world where it's all kind of task oriented and go, to say, no, listen, I just want 2 weeks where I can hang out with people who I really care about. Like, that's a really important thing. So well done you to kind of spell that out. All right, Trips, it's time for the speed round.
Okay, I'm ready.
5 questions we ask absolutely everybody who comes on the podcast. Favorite camp song?
Llama Song. It's truly a classic.
The Llama Song, she says, is truly a classic. Favorite item on the salad bar?
I like the beets.
The beets. Okay, so this year we had diced beets. I didn't like them as much as when we had sliced beets. I don't know how you feel about the beet dichotomy there. All-time favorite lip balm flavor?
Tiller Towards Tangerine.
Tiller Towards Tangerine. Both a great flavor and a great name. I agree. Mallows or popcorn around the campfire?
Popcorn.
Okay. And finally, Trips, what's your real name?
Oh
no! We're all out of time. We'll have to get it the next time you come on the podcast. Trips, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
In a world with far too much seriousness, far too much drama, we bring you something different. The joke of the cast.
Why is it called Joke of the Day if it's not funny?
Do you guys know why Adele crossed the road? To say, hello from the other side. At camp, we love making friends, but we know it's harder to make friends at home. That's why we bring you this, the Friendship Tip of the Week. Today's friendship tip is a really easy one, unless it's not. And that tip is to remember people's names. And it's hard sometimes. You meet a lot of people and you think, I have a hard time. And at camp, what we do is we play a lot of name games. So like, I'm Superstar Soy, and we do a little dance move. Maybe you can do that in your head, or maybe you're only meeting one person at a time. But a really wonderful way to make somebody feel appreciated is you meet them, you get their name, and then when you're going to introduce them to someone else, you introduce them by name and you make them feel special, and you start to build a friendship. Today's words of inspiration, our GACSpiration, come from Katrina Mayer. Kindness costs nothing, yet it is a most precious gift. Well, that does it. That's another episode of the Gold Arrow Camp podcast in the books. Special thanks to Trips for joining us from Chico and being so willing to talk about education and camp and why she thinks it's so special. I hope you enjoyed that. Also, thank you to you for listening. Podcast without an audience is just me talking to myself, so I really appreciate you being along for the ride. If you enjoy the podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend, have them listen to it. You could rate, review, you could subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get podcasts. That helps us get the word out. As always, I'm Soy, and I'll save a marshmallow for you.